Hello there. Thanks for joining in. My name is Kubeir. Today we're going to talk about reference letters. Uh, Primarily, what happens when my company refuses to issue me a reference letter? What happens when my employer refuses to give me the reference letter in the format that CIC wants? What happens when a previous company that I used to work for has shut down? What happens in a case where the letter which is given to me is not in the format or does not include all the details that CIC wants? We're going to talk about all this in a minute. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So, what is it about reference letter which makes it so important? Why do we need it? Let's understand the logic behind it. So, work experience gets you points under express entry. It's basically one of the four factors that gets you points. The other three being your age, education, and your language skills. Those are proven pretty easily through the documentation. What is the trickier one is your work experience. So you basically prove your work experience or the points you're claiming under your work experience to your reference letter. So basically, your reference letter includes your obviously your name, your work period, your working hours, the remuneration you were paid in salary. The amount of salary is irrelevant, but the fact that you were paid is very important. And extremely important are your job roles and responsibilities, because those will then prove whether the knock code that you have chosen, which should have been of a skill type 0A or B, is valid or not. So all this constitutes a good reference letter, and that is what CIC is looking for. But obviously we don't live in an ideal world. So what happens when you are not able to get this reference letters? In more or less scenarios, most people do manage to get a proper reference letters from their employer, and they don't have a problem with getting it drafted in the way it should be as per CIC. But as I said, we're not in an ideal world, and a lot of employers or a lot of companies do not have policies or have a policy where they cannot issue a reference letter which is as per the CIC format, or they cannot issue a reference letter which will include all these details that you want, or they will not issue you a reference letter which will include your job roles and responsibilities, or they will not include a reference, or they will not include salary details on your reference letters. That all of this makes it a bit tricky, because CIC needs to get that information in order to award you the points that you have claimed. So one of the easiest ways of doing it is that get a letter written from your manager, your colleague, your supervisor, preferably a person who you're reporting to, a senior person ideally. And this letter basically includes all these details. It has to be on a plain paper. It doesn't have to be in your company letterhead if the person is not authorized to do it. And get this letter, get it notarized, because that offers more credibility to this letter, and have all the details included in this letter. Now, just this letter by itself is not sufficient. What you must also add with this letter is any other proof that you have on an official document from your company. For example, your joining letter with the company. Add your pay stubs, very important, because they prove remuneration. If you don't have pay stubs, provide income tax details where you must have shown your salary. If you were paid in cash, then get a salary certificate from your company where it says that you were given the salary and this was the mode of payment. You have to provide these details. You have to prove that your job was paid and it covered these roles and responsibilities. So it's going to be a combination of all these things. So get a letter from a colleague, provide other documents which prove that you are working in the company, you were paid, provide a relieving letter, joining letter, employment letter, provide performance reviews if you have them, provide a deputation letter, provide some sort of an award that you were given for good performance. Anything and everything that shows that you did work in that company, covered that period of employment, were paid, and did all those jobs that you have claimed under your knock code. This in combination with a denial letter from the company, preferred. If not, it's all right. You can always explain it in your letter of explanation or client information as they call it now, and say why your company refused to give it to you, or that the fact that your company refused to give you the letter, and in lieu of that, you are not providing these documents. In most cases, it is accepted. Make sure the letter that you get from your colleague, it has his or her name, contact details, email address. I strongly suggest that you also add his or her company ID, his or her business card, because all this makes it very credible. Also, if CIC does want to contact them to verify these documents, then they will be easily able to do that. Apart from that, there is nothing much else you can do. So just make a comprehensive package of all these documents and merge them together in one PDF file, and that will become your proof of experience. Now, so there is also cases where people ask, so what happens when when my previous employer has shut down, or the company has shut down? Well, same thing applies. Try and get a letter from your ex-colleague, ex-manager, somebody who's worked with you before. Make sure the document is verifiable. Get any other proof of that company in existence or having shut down. Add it to your documentation and show it in your, or rather explain it in your letter of explanation that this company does not exist any longer. Try and get as much documentation as possible to say that it did exist at that point of time. You were working over there. These are the documents and the letter from your colleague, and that should comprehensively, collectively make it your work experience. Now, pay stubs, income tax receipts, these are not mandatory documents. But the reason why we suggest that these are added is because they are proof of your having received a payment for your work experience, which is extremely important, because that is one of the conditions that you should be qualify under to claim your work experience points, that your work experience is paid. So the way you prove it is through a pay stub, through a salary credit in your account. So you can show bank statements and highlight when you were paid or on the dates that you were paid. All this will add to your credible work experience documents in the file. And the way I say it, you will ace it. All the best. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because how else are you going to get updated with all the awesome videos that I'm going to upload? See you later.